All right. Well, the beautiful thing about social media is hooking up with people you hadn't seen in decades, and the No Hipsters Allowed group allowed me to reconnect with Mike Crowder from Indianapolis. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, Ken. Thanks for talking with me.
Well, thank you. It's been 40 years since we crossed paths in the Broadripple neighborhood of Indianapolis. Tell the folks what that was like back then.
Well, in Indianapolis, there was a very small underground scene. It basically was condensed in a neighborhood called Broadripple. And specifically, there was a club, the Patio. And one of our dear friends, Chubby Wadsworth, was the owner, and he hired a guy named Bill Levin, who's sort of this iconic, almost Andy Warhol-like figure of Indianapolis, and basically allowed Bill to book all of this crazy music because, well, what else are we going to get? You know, a lame cover band on a Wednesday night. So through the Patio, for a couple of years there, there were several bands like Husker, the Meat Puppets, Robyn Hitchcock and the Egyptians, the Minutemen, so on and so forth, DOA, tons of great bands played. And there actually was this nice little camaraderie in Indianapolis, which is a small, big city. And there just wasn't a lot going on in the city except in that neighborhood. Also in that neighborhood was a record store called Second Time Around, which was honestly at the time the only store in a city the size of Indianapolis that was selling, punk rock, alternative, new wave, whatever the term du jour was. But if you wanted to find the first Suicide record, they were the only store that was going to have it. If you wanted Throbbing Gristle, or you wanted anything that was new, if you wanted the UK import of REM with unreleased live tracks, you would go to Second Time Around. So that store was nestled in the village of Broadripple. And so you had this nice coalescing of a live music scene with also a record scene. And I also want to mention that Second Time Around rented videos and a lot of foreign stuff, French New Wave. If you wanted to rent a Buñuel or Godard movie or Truffaut movie, they also were renting this stuff. So they were kind of ground zero for any of that stuff sort of left of center in Indianapolis.
It was definitely a cool neighborhood. I immediately recognized it was Indy's version of Coventry. And, the irony for me was meeting Bill and finding out that Bill's roommate when he lived in Cleveland was who I was rooming with at Coventry. And so I think I got into a show or two for free or something,
Bill was very generous. He let me into shows with audio equipment, video equipment, and rarely, if ever, charged me. And the other thing I think that needs to be mentioned is you're comparing Cleveland, Indianapolis. You guys had an established scene that was remarkable. If you want to go back to Pere Ubu, the Dead Boys, Devo, that whole Akron, Cleveland, the Pagans, just tons of iconic bands and musicians, Rocket from the Tombs, however far back, the Raspberries that you want to take it. We didn't really have that in Indianapolis as much. So we were just kind of rallying around good music just for the sake of liking it. So it was, our identity was the friendships I had with these people in Broadripple, if that makes sense. I mean, I felt like we were always swimming upstream a little bit.
Well, you probably benefited being in between Chicago and Cleveland and some other cities because you sure had good shows.
We had plenty of good. I was going to say, being in Indianapolis, being in the crossroads of America, we saw a lot of good shows. And if they didn't play Indy, they would play Cincy or Cleveland or definitely Chicago. I mean, I can, going back to those days where we were taping shows in the early, mid 80s, it was working in a record store, being in the industry, it was not uncommon for me to go up and back to Chicago 3 times in a week.
Talk about taping and the difference of how everyone tapes and records now. I don't even bother,
Yeah, those days are long gone. I had a friend that I visited in Chicago because I started out as a record collector, even at a young age. I was 19 the first time I went to LA, and there was this thing called the Capitol Records Swap Meet, and they were doing it in the parking lot of the Capitol Records building at Hollywood and Vine.
Building, yeah.
And I met all these, like Gary Rockaway from Rockaway Records. I met all these record legends. And then within that, there were a couple of guys that had cassettes on the table, and they're like, "Hey, we're trading, trade you any homebrew stuff." These guys called it homebrew stuff for your tapes. And I heard some of the tapes, and it was just amazing. I knew this was a thing with the Grateful Dead, but I didn't realize. I was just naively at 19. I didn't realize that there was this whole underground scene of people taping, all sorts of music. So I talked to a guy, and he said for affordability, I started out with a Sony Walkman Pro, which did have VU, had recording levels. I got an Iowa stereo microphone. Those were fairly compact, and with the help of sometimes with females or sometimes with other friends, knowing the right security guard at the right door, the tricks, knowing the bouncer at the Vogue or the Patio. I started sneaking this stuff into shows and became a very active trader, because then I also was immediately introduced to a network of really cool traders. I made your acquaintance and all these other people from coast to coast that they all like different stuff. It was amazing. They would want you to go tape something that I remember driving to Louisville to tape a Culture Club show, and I didn't like Culture Club. I didn't dislike them. It was just like, I don't know, what am I supposed to do with this? But what I realized is I had 10 other guys on the line that's like, oh yeah, I need that, and I'll go tape what other stupid band that you like. I'll go tape the Meat Puppets for you. I don't even know who the Meat Puppets are. So it was a really insular community, and the more people I met within that community, the more I liked it. There were some really great people, big personalities, jovial, mainly guys, and I miss a lot of my friends. It was those were fun years, and in a way, there was less obnoxiousness than record collectors, because I was the record geek. I was the record snob that we were talking about in the movie High Fidelity, and I had to wean myself. But taping was like, you were happy when you got a good tape, but you were happy for your friend if he got a good tape of a show.
Because you'd get it.
I would get it, and I'd say, hey, I got this great tape. You're going to love this Cure tape, or you're going to love this Jesus and the Married, or whatever band that you were taping, or Dylan or whomever. To get a good tape of a show, you felt there was a certain pride with it,
Badge of honor.
It was a badge of honor, but I knew there'd be 10, 20, 30 other guys waiting on it, and they probably went out that same night or the night before or the night after and got an equally great tape from whomever.
Yeah.
So those were really fun days, Ken, and the more people I met, and you know how it is, you get lists from more people. When the lists get bigger, and you're kind of thinking, oh, the Faces from 1972, that sounds like fun, excellent minus tape, and that's just how my music catalog grew. So I ended up becoming more of a tape collector than an album collector for a while, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and the beauty was, before the internet, that was the only way to hear exclusive performances. You couldn't just go on YouTube and click and hear. And
correct. And we should explain that. Yeah, in the 80s and even into the early to mid 90s, that there wasn't the internet, there wasn't YouTube. This wasn't a keystroke, folks.
You were mailing everything.
We were mailing. And
spending money to send the list to see if you could trade.
And I remember doing a collectible records list just for comparison to show people. And I mailed this catalog out of collectible records, and I'd always put in the back, I'm also a tape trader, trading only. But living in Indianapolis, kind of in the middle of the country, I would send to the West Coast on day one. I would send to the mountain in trying to disperse these catalogs so ideally they would show up on the same day. I don't think kids have any appreciation for the analog lifestyles that we were living back then. And everything took time. It It was the Pony, the U.S. Pony Express, folks.
Yeah.
And if there was overnight service, we weren't overnighting tapes because back then it probably would have been like $30.
Oh, the cost of being a taper and an archivist was unbelievable.
And for us, my budget was always SA90s and UDXL290s.
Yep.
That was in buying them by the case and dealing with, I forget who it was, something World out of
Tape
New York.
World.
Tape, thank you, Tape. And you buying them in bulk, and they got an extra 10% off this year.
Yeah,
and
And then I forget Terrapin tapes
Terrapin tapes
was a good one. And then when DAT hit, that first guy that got the DSS tapes, or you know.
Yep, that was a big thing. And I think when you're saying taping, I want to kind of morph this into videotaping as well.
Yeah,
because I was like you say archivist. That's what I was. I was a true archivist. Record collector really was more from an archivist perspective. Video was the same way. You would get all these old gray whistle tests, or you get all the Don Kirshner's, or things that you kind of remember seeing as a kid and you never thought you'd see them again. And I always thought it was funny that the guys back then, the real early guys with the TV connections, they all taped and traded on Beta.
Yeah.
You know, it was like so I had to go get a couple Beta hi-fi decks, and that was interesting as well, because there were even fewer people videotaping because just the size of the units back then.
Smuggling in
was almost impossible. You had to know someone.
And we'd split stuff. For me, we'd split up batteries, blank tapes, and the camcorder. And inevitably, someone would get nailed and lose a battery, or
you'd be
a
something
tape.
down. You'd be down, and then to coordinate. Well, let's all go meet in the restroom, and like you're exchanging here. Take this. Here's the battery. You got the mics, and it got easier eventually, because I remember when the camcorder came out, I was like, okay, this is going to change things a little bit.
Video 8.
And Video 8.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I meant at first. And I thought, you're going to see a preponderance of this stuff. And sure enough, because I remember when it was still the big units, there was, the guy in Montreal that would always have first row in the balcony.
Dom Potenza.
And there was a guy in New York that would do a lot of the Meadowlands. And, had a few people, my friend in Detroit doing the Joe Louis stuff.
Jim Romeo.
Yeah, and you had all these guys, but there was just a few in each city, and they all had a similar story where, I know this one door to go to, or I wheel in, somebody wheels me in a wheelchair, and you're just going, oh my God, you have to go through all these, all these hoops just to get this stuff in. But so audio taping kind of led to videotaping, and then once the Video 8 and camcorders and all that stuff, then it was kind of Katie barred the door, and there were more people getting into it. One of the guys we were talking earlier, my friend Tony, who worked at Second Time Around, suddenly he was, he had. You
mean the actor, the famous actor,
the famous actor Tony? But I liked it because more people were getting into it, and it was kind of like, okay, let's go, with different musical tastes. So again, there was just more stuff. The video list, I don't know if you remember this, but it was like within 6 months, the video list got crazy.
Yeah.
They went from like 1 or 2 pages to 10 pages of video. And then around that same time, I don't know if somebody got smart to start going through TV vaults, but you started seeing really good prints of things on U-Matic that were getting transferred, or 3/4 inch. And it was just fun days. There was nothing better. Every day could be like Christmas because you'd get a package.
Yeah.
And it was like, who's this from? Oh, this is from Ken Dixon. Great. Here's some Agora shows. What's the latest? And it would just be every day there would be something new coming in. And, you were excited to get your stuff out. Hey, you're going to love this tape from the Vogue in Indianapolis. It was fun days, and I do miss it. I kind of look back, and I think you had to be somewhat young, because I don't know if it was so hectic. If you really look at all the stuff, all the driving to the venues, driving out of town, like you said, coordinating, having all these people that were responsible for carrying something in. You had to type up your list, then duping the tapes, sending those packages out, dealing with the mail. And I remember being so excited in Indianapolis because I found out there was a post office near the airport that I think it was 24 hours, or if not 20, it was open till midnight. And I'm like, a post office? You drive by there after work at 10:30 with 13 packages with cassettes and videotapes, and I was able to drop them off. But
what's your show that you're proudest of having captured?
Wow, this should be easy, and it's not.
It's not. I know.
It's really not.
What are some that you're proudest
something by
of?
accident, and I'm not even that big of a U2 fan at all anymore. I like the early stuff, but I saw them on the Joshua Tree tour at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, and they came out. It was with Los Lobos, but they came out under a pseudonym and actually opened for themselves.
Wow.
And I kind of figured it out, but I had just started rolling tape accidentally, and then I realized, hey, that's U2. So something like that, it may not be the most prized possession, but just being at the right place and actually having the sense to hit play record. Again, the video would be probably REM in '83 on the Murmur tour, just because how much video was going around, and I had the sense. But as I've told you the story, that is bittersweet, because I had my partner Gary with me, and we were going to decide video and audio, because I had my audio deck and I had dead batteries. The one thing I didn't remember was new batteries, because I was concentrating so heavily on the video. Got to get the battery pack. That's back when video had the big ones that had a battery pack.
What USB did they have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. So unfortunately, the sound was really rough on those old video.
Yeah.
With the bad, almost boom mic. And it's too bad, because if I had done the audio for that, we could have had a nice sync on it.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you a couple answers, and I'm sure when I'm driving home tonight, I'll think of 10 things I should have said as far as iconic tapes. But there were just so many. You know how it was. You'd seeing Dylan in a club when he was doing these weird club shows in the 90s. Those were special shows. Probably too numerous to name.
Yeah. So why are you in Cleveland this weekend?
I'm in Cleveland because I still do records. I still collect, and I'm doing this vintage show in Cleveland. And I love coming to talk to you, Ken, and hanging out in one of rock and roll's great cities here.
Well, thank you. What's the show's at the IX Center? Or?
The show is at the IX Center. It's the Totally Rad Vintage Fest.
Cool. Well, I'll post this, and hopefully one person will see it and come hunting you down.
There you go. Yeah, and harass me about all the old days. But
I want the YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike.
Thanks,
Always
Ken.
nice to chat with you on camera and off.